Hello, everybody. This is very exciting. If you're here for the dilutive summit, you can make your way to the exit now. This is a non-dilutive summit. I promised my team I'd make that joke last night, so there you go. No, I didn't land it, Isabella. Sorry. All right. This is actually really exciting. So, fun fact. I am ARPA-H's first employee. I was part of the planning team like 2 years ago, and I was on board even before our wonderful director, Renee Wagerson, was here, and so I'd really seen the agency develop from just a concept to actually doing all of these amazing things that we're doing now. And I was here last year with Renee, where she gave the mission brief, and it was so funny, because like typical JPM, you know, I was staffing her, and I have her schedule, and I'm like sitting on my phone, I'm like, when is our next meeting, where are we going, this stuff, and then she's like, keeps shouting me out during this, and she's like, and then as our director of transition, Craig says, I'm like, oh, hey, boss. So anyway, it's funny how much a difference a year makes. So, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about my office inside ARPA-H, and kind of during the course of that, you'll learn a little bit about how the agency works, but then also some of the things that we've accomplished in the last year since Renee and I kind of last spoke to this group, so really exciting. Okay, so like the gentleman said, I'm a licensed attorney, and I have a background in designing R&D programs. Previously, I was at the Department of Defense. And one of the things that really differentiated my work from some of my peers is that people actually ended up using the things that I designed. Sounds kind of silly, but it's actually a really difficult problem in R&D, especially government ID. Yeah, that'd be great. Cool, we'll get a mic. So, yeah. So, what's really fun about that is I got to design a program, run it, and I got to see what works. And at ARPA-H, what I get to do, I have really one of the best jobs at the agency, is I get to help our wonderful scientists who develop these groundbreaking, technical innovations and really help them translate it into the real world. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how my office works and really bring you into some of the my daily existence, which is basically wall-to-wall Zoom calls with Jenica here. Okay, so if you can go on to the next slide. Oh, it's right here. All right.
Just press the button.
There we go. All right, so if ARPA-H's mission is to accelerate better health outcomes for all Americans, that's our agency's mission, it's my job, like I said, to make sure that those solutions reach all Americans. And like I said in my little intro, I have a bag of tricks that I've previously deployed and that we're really trying to scale so that they apply to all of our programs. And a really key concept you have to understand is that programs at ARPA-H are here for a transaction. Very, very short. So a program manager is term limited. So there's an initial term of 3 years. They can be extended for a maximum of 2 terms, so 6 years. A lot of times that is not enough time to develop deep tech. And so the idea is that a program manager comes in, unblocks some technical hurdle in their field, probe the deep depths of what's possible with the laws of physics, but then you hand it off to someone else, and they kind of run with the baton. And so my office helps in all the different ways that you can have those solutions survive in the wild. And the key is to get involved as early as possible at concept development, because in the health space, there are a lot of things that you have to consider. Regulatory, reimbursement, market adoption, whether something's venture backable. And so the idea is that we start as early as possible intervening with those solutions and helping with the concept design so that you're building something that has a chance to survive. So where might these solutions go after ARPA-H? These are just some of the pathways that we've identified, and I'm gonna, just my next slide, I'll just dig into one. But just imagine all the different solutions that we're building. we're going to kind of identify early on what it takes to actually go down each of these pathways, and what differences that means, like early on, things that you're going to have to accomplish. I don't know, Jenica, do you have any examples that you wanted to pull on from these pathways, or just to give people a flavor?
Yeah, sure. I can actually talk. So I'm Jenica Patterson. I'm one of the division directors in PATIO. And I previous life of mine, I was an advisor to many program managers at DARPA. One when I wasn't there, and one I think resonates with every single person in this room, and probably most Americans, is mRNA vaccines. So there was a seedling effort that happened. This is just an example, because we don't have any examples yet of transition at ARPA-H. But mRNA vaccines was actually a seedling effort at DARPA. It started there. And this was pre-pandemic. And they gave a certain amount of money to this company that everybody knows, Moderna. And they were able to make the impossible possible. And that's really what our agencies are all about, is making the impossible possible. And what happened was COVID happened. And then we made that actually spread across the entire nation by transitioning out to all Americans and saving millions of lives. So that's one really great example of where a solution might go if it is at ARPA-H.
And what's really interesting about that example is it actually is an example of a fast fail and an early off-ramp, because it was actually part of a larger program that was a failure. It was just a component part. I don't know if you want to give a beat on that, of the different piece that it was, or... Yeah. Okay. All right. So just in general, I gave you a couple different pathways. One of the most common failures, if you're talking about creating a startup, is no market need. Again, sounds completely crazy, but a lot of times in science, the scientists, they see something and they're just motivated to solve a problem, but it's really just a problem that's inside their brains and the curiosity that they have. The key, if you want to fulfill ARPA-H's mission of getting solutions out into the real world, is to actually ensure that the problems that we're solving are things that actually matter to real Americans. And so what we don't want to do is go through a 6-year effort where we unblock some sort of major technical milestone, only to find after all of that government funding that nobody wants it. And so the types of things that my office does is that we make sure that there is a market need early on. Okay, so one of the concepts, like if you're gonna take one thing away from this briefing, the most important thing to me is this concept that was popularized by the design firm IDEO. Essentially, it's that innovation comes at the intersection of these three things. So there's feasibility, so that's the technology itself, and typically you measure this, in like the DARPA context or NASA with the technical readiness level, TRL. And frankly, a lot of times inside the government or even the private sector, people almost exclusively focus on that technical feasibility. But as I mentioned in the last slide, that's not really enough. And so to give you a little bit of a flavor of how my team operates, we really focus on those other two aspects of it. So you have desirability. So this is the wants and needs of people. Again, going back to the last slide, no market need. You want to understand that right away, whether you're solving a problem that actually matters to people. But other things to consider here are affordability. Can people actually afford this? Accessibility, is it something that's going to be deployed in a variety of communities or just in more well-to-do areas? We really make sure we're solving for everyone. So that's the desirability piece. And then finally, there's viability. These are the market dynamics, so ensuring that something is venture backable, that it can go through the regulatory process, that there is an FDA pathway for the things that we're creating. And again, the idea is that in parallel to the program managers designing their programs, technical feasibility, my team is helping make sure that we have those other two things really accounted for during concept development. Okay, so I have 3 wonderful teams inside PATIO. So we have Jenica, who is with me right here, and I'll let her tell you a little bit more about her particular division. I also have our health ecosystem engagement team, aka HEAT, led by our wonderful Dan Bram right here. Dan, you want to give a wave to everybody? If you want to set up any sort of speaking engagement, conference, other sort of interaction with ARPA-H, Dan is the man to do that. And then finally, there is a really tremendous effort that we're very excited about called ARPA-H. You might have heard about it. It's our way to convene the health ecosystem, which is currently fragmented. This is a consortium where we can run R&D projects, and we'll be doing that upcoming in this year. But we have a site in Boston that's primarily focused on investors and markets, and then another site in Dallas that's focused on customer experience, and there'll be funding opportunities and projects that come out of each of those hubs. And if you notice, just kind of going back, our little model here actually tracks with this design rubric as well. So our Boston hub very much focuses on viability, whereas our Dallas hub focuses on the desirability piece of that. Okay, so telling you a little bit about the teams that I have. So we have the HEAT team, managed by Dan right here. These are some of the services that we have. So one are ecosystem activities and speaking opportunities. So again, as we send out our other senior leaders, like Renee and other folks, figuring out how we actually engage the world and create really meaningful bidirectional communication. Dan helps organize that and kind of deploy the different leaders as chess pieces on the board to make sure that we're communicating our message, but then also people can give us feedback. We also have we like to call our network on demand. Just taking a beat. One of the best things about a program manager is that they are an expert in a particular field. But the best programs are actually interdisciplinary. And so what happens when you do something that's at the intersection of like cybersecurity and, I don't know, some sort of health thing? That cybersecurity expert's going to have to come to Dan to help sort of round out that network. And so what we do is we capture all of the different interactions that we have at conferences and the personal networks of our program managers, and we really help deploy that so that we don't just like zero in on one topic. Our program managers can really pull from different domains, disciplines, fields, so we have a really, really wide aperture. Dan's been really successful at that. This is also where we run our human-centered design services, so we can really understand those wants and needs of people in Dan's division. And finally, we do what we like to call in-person discovery trips. So during concept design, sometimes the most important thing, like I mentioned, that market need is really understanding who you're solving for. And so before we actually launch a program, what we like to do is take that program manager, his or her technical team, and bring them maybe into the community that might be affected by a problem, or bring them with some of the leading experts with that, and convening panels and whatnot. These in-person trips really take something and make it real, so that the things that we're solving aren't just these abstractions that are in a paper somewhere. You actually get to look people in the eyes, the people who would benefit from it. That's Dan's group. ARPA-H, like I mentioned before, this is convening the health ecosystem. So number one, we'll have these funding opportunities. So again, non-dilutive summit. Keep an eye on our website. We'll be having some funding opportunities coming out of ARPA-H soon. Another capability that we have in ARPA-H are what we call network activations. So we have this network, so we have these hubs, and lots of different consortium members or spokes. And when we want to blast out a new program and we want to ask a question, one of the things that we like to do is pulse that network, like crowdsource information. Again, typically this happens in the government through RFIs, but RFIs can be really passive. And a lot of the most innovative people aren't trolling government websites to see, hey, what are these opportunities? And so what our hubs can do is they can actually proactively reach out to different people who might have a perspective on something. And so think, if you're solving something, maybe you need to talk to a community health organization. A community health organization is not typically going to be going on a government website. And so what our hubs can do is they can actually go out and talk to those community organizations and get their perspective on things. So that's a network activation. We have consortium events. So this is where the different folks who have signed up to be a network member can kind of mingle with each other. So it's not just ARPA-H blasting out opportunities. It's allowing the different folks in the health ecosystem to mingle. And then finally, the ARPA-H will also have elements of our larger programs as we mature a little bit. So think about something that requires advanced manufacturing, we can use our network here to maybe do things domestically that have previously been done overseas. And finally, I will hand it over to my wonderful colleague, Jenica, to talk to you about her division, and then she can also, hold on to the mic to tell you about some other really interesting opportunities that you all might be interested in.
Great. Do you want to take this one? Sure. All right, cool. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to talk to you about T3X, my division within PATIO. So we really the way we run our division is we want to make sure that our program managers in the programs, the technologies that we're developing are going to what we call survive in the wild. And we want to make sure we're not developing these technologies and at the end of the day, we're like, hey, this is a cool technology, do you want it? No, we want to look in the beginning of programs and make sure that we're implementing transition, understanding those barriers to entry from the beginning. So that's what my division is all about. So we have these 4 enabling capabilities for our program managers, for our programs, and at the end in the small business, for our community out, for our technology innovators. So one capability that we have in-house is called Experts in Residence Program. So we are able to pair up an expert, someone who has been there and done that. Think of a really amazing scientist who built a company, sold it, an investor now who understands the landscape of the barriers to entry to market or the barriers to entry to transition, that can sit with our program manager that maybe hasn't done that before to understand what elements do they need to build into their program to be able to make sure that that technology is successful out in the real world. Because we're not building things to sit on the shelf, we're building things for people to use. We also have that regulatory and reimbursement support as well. So it's kind of in line with our Expert in Residence program, but we want to make sure that we have FDA at our side. We are talking to CMS. We are making sure that things are affordable, are accessible, and can also go through that regulatory pathway. Many people don't know, but we actually have, within our authorities as an agency, we actually have the ability to reimburse the FDA. And people probably always ask, what does that mean? Well, we've been working with every single center at the FDA to figure out what does that look like? What pain points do they have on their side? What programs are we launching that we want to accelerate? And what are the problems that technology innovators are having on the outside where we can accelerate everybody? We can really benefit the entire community. We do due diligence and landscape analysis. We want to make sure we're not reinventing the wheel. We're not funding everything that NIH or DARPA or other agencies are doing. So we have some public-private partnerships to help us scope what is that gap or opportunity for a program manager to make sure that they are really filling a need in a space in the community. And last but not least, in a way I think a lot of people are here of how do I work with ARPA-H, how do I get funding? We run the small business program within my division. And that is a congressionally mandated program. As most of you know, it's the SBIR STTR program. So we do dedicate 3.65% of our R&D funds to small businesses. And this is I want to differentiate a little bit from other agencies. We are completely program manager driven. And what I mean by that is we are not investigator driven. We don't have, for example, like NIH, an omnibus solicitation. We have topics that come out that are ideated by our program managers, and they are put out on the website, and they are the ones actively managing and leading that topic, because that particular idea is going to fill a gap in their portfolio, or maybe be an add-on for their program, or ideate on a next program. So imagine you getting funding from ARPA-H and being in that community and being part of another program. It's really a cool opportunity. Another thing that's not mentioned on this slide is so we not only support our program managers within my division, but we also have an entrepreneur in residence program through one of our public-private partnerships, BioHealth Innovations, to be able to support our technology innovators. So we have them paired up directly. We call it a bespoke service to make sure we're pairing the right EIR with the right small business so they are successful. And we've already been piloting that in our division so far. So now I'm going to talk a little bit more about the small business program. And I have a really exciting thing to announce. I think it's in 2 slides, so stay tuned. It's really exciting. So if you don't remember anything from this, grab your phones and look at our website, because we do have a really cool opportunity. So again, the whole purpose of our small business program is twofold. It's really to support and help our program managers accelerate their portfolio, them to get quick tech-to-market wins, but also to make sure that we are really investing in our small businesses and we are helping that community and getting technology out into the hands of all people to meet our mission. Again, our small business topics, they're generated by our program managers. And then we are trying to release at least 1 contract solicitation per year. I will tell you, it will be more. We are barely 2 years old. We will be 2 years, I think, in March. Our small business program is 6 months old, and we actually already have 17 awards. So I just want to tell you, we're moving at the speed of relevancy. We started ideating our small business program in March of last year. We worked with the NIH Seed Office, who was incredible, to help us get this going. I think Matt McMahon might be here, so thank you for all your help there. We worked with the NCI contracting shop to move things really quickly. We were able to get our solicitation out in June. We were able to get applications in July. We were able to fund things in September. So we were able to get once we got the applications, 2.5 months fund our awards. So it was really, really fast, which I think is really great for small businesses. And then we also, some of the things that Craig talked about, PATIO is going to be really involved with our small business program. We're going to have our entrepreneur and residence program for our small businesses, but we also might be able to leverage the ARPA-Net for health. And I think that's really going to be a great opportunity for our small businesses to really break through those barriers that they typically have. Did I miss anything?
You're all good.
All right, cool. I don't know why this is blurry, but, oh, no, it's not. Okay. So I just want to give you a snapshot of what our 2023 solicitation awards are. These are only 9 of the 17 that we have. We had 9 awards. We also have 8 transition awards where we're co-funding things with NIH and DARPA. But I just wanted to give you a flavor of the topics that we solicited. Mind you, in March of last year, we had 3 program managers that were at ARPA-H. We now have almost 17. So we were very limited in the number of program managers that we had to ideate on the topic. So all these topics, 4 of them came from program managers. The last one came from the PATIO office. So we were really excited to put that topic out. And these are the projects that we funded. And I just wanted to show you kind of the start of the geographic diversity. If I had the transition awards up here, we fill in a little bit more of the middle of the United States. We're hoping to fill up this entire map in the next few years. So we're relying on your community to spread the word about our small business program to make that happen. You can also see the diversity of the type of topics that we fund. It's not going to be set in stone. It's always going to evolve and change because it's program manager dependent. And last but not least, we have our next solicitation coming out. So please take out your phones, look at our website. We have the 6 topics already out on our website, as well as on the website for, I forget the name of the website for the government, but within the topics, there's about 2-sentence description of what those topics are. This actual solicitation will come out around January 22nd. You'll have 30 days for your proposals to come in. And then we will, just so you know, the way we expedite our review process, which I forgot to explain, is we only do government reviews. So only have government reviewers. We have 1 to 3 government reviewers review these proposals. It's very different than NIH. So that's how we can move at the speed of relevancy for our agency. Another thing I wanted to mention is, based on these topics, we have very big waiver budget caps. So typically you can fund about, I think it's about $200,000 for a phase 1, $2 million for a phase 2. Our phase 1 for 1 year is 600,000, and our phase 2 is 3.5 million. So we're trying to reduce those barriers for our small businesses so they have that non-dilutive capital to be able to move at the speed of relevancy for us. These were ideated by all 6 program managers. Take a look at them. One I really want to highlight is actually the one about the LymphoLab Pro Discovery Kit. I believe there's only one lymphatic assay that is approved by the FDA. It's a very underfunded area. So we need you guys to reach out to your community to help support that particular topic, because we'd love to get a lot of applications in that area. That's all I have. Thank you guys for listening, and I don't know, Craig, if you want to finish up with anything?
Yeah, so just a couple things, and then I think we can take questions, right? So it is really cool to be here a year later, because again, when Renee and I were here last year, we were just saying, hey, we're gonna do these things. We've launched multiple programs, we've built multiple offices. I think there's 40 people in my transition office right now. We've launched a small business program in less than 2 months. We've made all of these awards. We have our Experts in Residence program is honestly one of our crown jewels. I mean, Jenica, you've just done such an amazing job bringing in people from the private sector to consult. It's one of the #1 things, just to tell you, that PMs tell me that they just appreciate being at ARPA-H is that they have this expertise that nowhere else in the government they would have access to. And so many of the PMs they will attribute a lot of their success and their ability to launch quickly to the expertise that you've provided for folks. It was really a wonderful job. And then the other thing I would just say on the small business program, again, being really big in the human-centered design and also being the transition guy, we know that working with government can be hard, and so we made a very, very concerted effort to streamline the application process for this. Generally speaking, SBIRs can be tough, and so our solicitation, how much did we shrink it?
It's only about 20 pages, but that's because the government requires us to have some language in there. Yeah, I think we cut it down from like 100 pages, yeah. And also we only require, I think it's about 10 pages for your application. And again, we try to expedite the review process for you to make it really simple.
And in our next phase, so there'll be this version, we look to improve that user experience even more. So, we're really, not only do we want your community to submit to the actual SBIR program, we'd also really love to get to the point where we're getting your feedback on the best way to engage with us to really lower those barriers of entry so that, maybe folks, they can even use the same pitch deck that they use to go, raise around, use that to come get an SBIR award. So eventually we'll get there where we really make it as easy as possible for you.
Craig, can I add 2 things?
Please.
I just want to add 2 things real quick. When the solicitation comes out, read it. There's about a page or 2 that the program manager wrote. We only put out contracts for this solicitation. It is not grants. It is a contract. The program manager is very specific about what they want. Follow the instructions closely. If you're not getting exactly what they want, your application is less likely to be funded. So I really want, if out of anything, read the instructions, read exactly what the topic wants, and then also understand it's going to be very active management because it's a contract, it's not going to be a grant.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So we love to take some questions from all of you, if anyone has any.
A question on the small business grants. VC-backed companies, is there a VC set-aside like there is with NIH, or is it restricted to non-VC companies?
We don't have anything in our solicitation that prohibits you from that.
This question is from our funded companies. So if some of our funded companies have SBIRs from NIH, can we send them your way? Because these are contracts, right?
Yeah, you can send them their way. So some of the companies that we did fund in our first round have been funded by NIH. What we're looking for at ARPA-H is not an incremental change. We are looking for a revolutionary change. That is it's not a difference from NIH, but I just want to make that clear. Like if you're just not getting funded by NIH, don't copy paste your application and send it to ARPA-H. We don't want to see that. We want to see you answer specifically to what we are asking within our solicitation. But yes, please do send them our way.
Yeah, and we have a really wonderful relationship with a lot of our NIH colleagues, and so just to sort of sing another beat on that, what we won't fund is like, hey, you're already being funded by NIH, and then sort of ARPA-H just sort of gets in on the train and like, oh, now we have multiple sort of lines of funding. We won't do that. It's really important for us to not be duplicative. But where we have, there are things that are too risky or kind of don't fit the business model for NIH, and a lot of times they'll push the stuff to us that way. And so it's a really like positive synergistic relationship because we have different missions. So yeah, so I think that's the best way to think about it. We won't duplicate, but we will sort of like take things on that NIH isn't willing to. Yeah, so I don't know if there's some mics too, so.
Go ahead.
Just.
I saw a press release on the Neuroscience program. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. So that's one of our programs. So we have.
Can you repeat the question because most of us didn't hear it?
Got it. So it is. So this is not my office. This is one of the funding opportunities, the large ones, from one of our program managers in the Resilient Systems office. So this is essentially coming up. Sorry, I'm just getting over a cold. Not sick, so if anyone's talking to me, I'm not going to get you sick. So this is essentially coming up with new economic models to drive innovation. So instead of, one, kind of like Jenica said on the SBIR, I encourage you to read the solicitation because I'm not going to explain this as well as Darshak, the program manager, can do. But essentially, it's kind of an incentive type play. There are a couple areas that he's interested in, and instead of predetermining what the particular technical solution is, what he's looking for is can we sort of let the market help us tell us what the most effective solution would be for that. So it's kind of like a value-based type of situation. So basically, I need you to lower rates of heart disease. I don't necessarily care how you do that, but I will pay you if you can demonstrate that outcome.
And I just wanted to add, Darshak does have one of the topics here is actually his. It's not tied to his program, but there could be a way to implement it into his program or a future one. So that would be the fully autonomous neonatal echocardiography one. So I just wanted to point that out as well.
Yeah, Darshak, like many of our PMs, is just absolutely brilliant. So very much recommend you go to the ARPA-H website. Look at the opportunity. It's a really creative thing that shows the broad aperture of the different types of programs that we have. So, the first program that we launched was, what if your bones could regrow themselves? Then we did precision surgical interventions, vaccines, and now we're doing something that's an economic play. It really gives you an idea of the wide cross-section of work that ARPA-H can do. Yes?
My understanding was that a lot of the specific projects would come through the program. So to what extent is there like a blanket or a broad solicitation? And if that is possible, what proportion of the funding goes to that versus the programs?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. So yes, like if you're all familiar with the ARPA model, we do have what's called a broad agency announcement, open BAA. And what this is we recognize that we have, I think, 17 program managers now. They all have these wonderful ideas for things, but that's not all. They don't have a monopoly on all of the wonderful ideas out there. And so as kind of a catch-all, we have this open solicitation where if you have an idea that doesn't fit an existing program or fit our small business program, you can submit there. Typically at an ARPA, it's a small portion of our portfolio because everything has to be program manager driven. In our first year, a pretty big percentage of our work came from OpenBA just because we didn't have program managers on board to be able to run their programs. And so in the year 2, we'll probably do a significant number of OpenBAs again. But over time, that portfolio balance will flip a little bit, where we'll do less and less of OpenBA work and more of program work. That is to say, please go on our website. There is an OpenBAA. If you have an idea that doesn't fit an existing program, we will absolutely consider it. The one major caveat is that it has to really fit an existing program manager. We have our model requires this active program management, and you could have the greatest idea in the world, but if we don't have an individual who's technically capable of monitoring that and really providing the guidance that we won't be able to fund it. So there are many great ideas that we can't fund just because we don't have the sort of technical expertise. But if there is a match, we've been funding them.
Hi, good morning.
Oh, sorry, got another one. Go ahead.
It's nice to meet you in person. I'm Matthew Fox. I'm COO of Baltimore. Wallace, thank you.
Yeah.
The agency's great support.
Thank you.
My question is practical. Now that we're ramping close or forming a meeting regularly, let's think about accessing the ability to obtain some services through the active program. Is this something that we collect resources on and propose to you, or do we write separate proposals?
Yeah, and absolutely, and congratulations on your award. I'm so excited you're here. So we are currently in the process of pairing up every single company with an EIR. We're doing our next round when I get back into the office, so you will be in touch with our my staff to be able to do that. So stay tuned for that. And then if you have ideas, we'd love to sit down with you to see what would benefit you as a company to make sure that you guys are being successful. So absolutely, we don't want to. We want to make sure that we are working with our companies. So let's have a chat when we get back from JPM. Okay? Yeah.
Yeah. Can I actually add to that? Because first of all, thank you, and that is amazing. We are very much iterative type of folks. One of the ways that we were able to move so fast, again, last year I was here 3 days, we didn't have anything built, and we built all this stuff. It's because we listened to folks. And so point one, like Jenica said, we'll be in touch, and we really want your ideas. Point number two, something that's really attractive about our small business program is Jenica's services. So the same things that we give to program managers in the large programs, we will give to our small business companies. Again, it has to sort of match, so it's not like we're just going to throw it, but it's not necessarily something that is going to come out of your pocketbook. And so these are additional services over and above just the funding, and also access to the network that we're building. We think it's going to be a huge value add to the community to not just get ARPA-H's funding, but also get that active program management and then get access to the services that Jenica has. So it really is very valuable from a lot of ways to do business with us. So we look forward to doing it. Yeah, please.
So, if there is a solicitation and there is a certain level of match, is it not how big it should be? Is 90% enough? Is 70% enough? Like what is
70% in terms of technology innovation? Is that what you mean?
innovation and solicitation? Because there might be no ideal.
Yeah, I think match as best as you can, right? I can't give you a particular percentage. It's really, this is going to be the program manager's decision, and you're going to have to see. I would recommend you looking at the topic, go back to our website, look at the person too. So I can tell you each person that if you reach out to SBIR at ARPA-H.gov, we can tell you who the program manager is. Don't reach out to the program manager because it's an active solicitation, but learn who they are, because I think that'll give you a better sense. And but I want you to make sure that you are leaning in on your innovation and yourself and how you can match. But don't. I can't give you a particular percentage of how it's going to match, but try to match it to the best of your ability.
Yeah, and if let me hum another bar on that, because I think it's useful. It's a big differentiator between our small business program and maybe some others. We have active program management, and we also have very real and meaningful negotiations. Not that they don't happen otherwise, but I mean this in a very specific way. I mean that in the sense that we're not going to just make it like a grant where we take somebody's solution as is and just say like, all right, let's rock and roll. What's going to end up happening is there's going to be a dialogue and a back and forth to make sure that whatever the solution is then tailored to the program manager. So it's again not a worse interaction. It's just a very different interaction than a lot of other SBIR programs. And so a 70% match, if you ended there, probably wouldn't be enough. You probably need to end up at 100%, but your going in position doesn't need to be 100% because there will be a negotiation process, if that makes sense.
And that actually happened this round where someone was like, I really love this application, but I need this, this, and this. And we got that, and that in the negotiations, as an example. Yeah.
1 minute?
One more minute. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
1 minute.
What percentage of your money distributed as grants versus contracts?
We don't do grants. The only grants that we have in the small business program is transition awards, and that is with NIH and DARPA. But we do not, for any solicitation, our open BAA, our programs, and our small business program will be contracts.
Do they have, I keep saying small business, but you're doing more than small business. What is the other 97% of your money going to that's not SBIR?
Well, we just mentioned like the Heroes program, the programmatic work, open BAA work.
Yeah. So when the program manager comes in, they launch large programs. So they get, a chunk of change, $100 to $150 million to run that program. That's where the bulk of our money is going. For the small business program, we have to spend at least 3.65% of our R&D funds for that. Yeah.
Are you still actively hiring program managers?
Yes. If you want to become a program manager, reach out to us. We are actively always hiring.
And in my office, something very exciting, we are going to hire our first PATIO program manager. So this is actually very, very relevant for this community. So if you have an idea of how there's some business element or some market element could be done better in the government, and you have a burning idea that's not necessarily scientific in the sense of like our other mission offices. If you have like, oh wow, the market should operate like this, we'd be willing to consider that in my office as well. So there's going to be, like mentioning to the Darshak program a second ago, the breadth of programs that we have are going to be really, really, really tremendous. So,
We have to wrap it up.
all right, I think we're done.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.